I'm at Voxxed Days Bucharest 2018. I'm really pleased to be joined by Krzysztof from TomTom. Krzysztof, thanks very much for coming along and joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
So you had a keynote this morning. I know you had a session yesterday.
Exactly.
And I've seen some of your sessions from this conference and others as well. Always crowd pleasers, because what you're talking about is incredibly interesting as well. So you're talking about autonomous vehicles, drones, etc. Tell us a little bit more about maybe one of your sessions today or yesterday.
Okay, so we are enthusiasts of artificial intelligence mostly, and about the fact that you can actually automate most of the devices using artificial intelligence and some probabilistic robotic theories, so that actually human only needs to show the intention and the machine will continue. Obviously, this is a step maybe toward the general intelligence, but at the moment we are focusing on these small, simple tasks that still can be managed by just artificial intelligence, and that's what we focus on our talks.
So there's a lot of challenges towards getting this right, and there's always going to be some stumbling blocks when we're talking about artificial intelligence and or automation as well. So what are some of the challenges you've faced?
First of all, in its current state, deep learning is a wonderful technology, but it learns relatively slowly. The networks learn relatively slowly. So, especially in this trial and error mode, we have to wait for a long time for the results to actually come up, because usually big networks need to be trained from 2 days to maybe weeks, depending of what architecture, infrastructure we have, obviously. So this is one of probably things that are maybe a bit problematic. But what is even more is both for drones and autonomous cars is how we will legally make them available, which is a totally different topic, and this is probably the society, I think it's not ready for that, and this is what we will need to discuss, because technology, we will get to it soon.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can't help, if you read the media, to get divisive, opposing sides of this, where some people are incredibly enthusiastic about autonomous cars and drones, and others are a bit more wary. And I think one of the things that makes people wary is a worry from a societal level, what's going to happen to, for instance, jobs.
Sure. I think this is not a place to be worried. The jobs will change, but they will not disappear for sure. And I think they will be much better jobs if the machines will take over the low-level stuff, and we will be more open to focus on high-level stuff. It will just be a shift. There were a lot of other shifts in the history, and they changed a lot, but I think for plus. So I would never worry about this. I think there will always be something for us, unless there is this apocalyptic scenario of robots taking over the world, which I think we are very far away from.
I think we're a long way from Skynet,
Yes.
So that's good. So, I mean, I was talking to a taxi driver a few days ago about autonomous vehicles and how that's going to impact society going forward. So, for instance, people who spend their lives in cars, have got company cars, and they're always driving, imagine how much work they're going to get done by being able to sit there and be transported from one place to another, and that's not lost productivity time anymore. They'll actually be able to work. So there's always pluses and pros and cons in this argument.
But if you well, the biggest advantage of autonomous vehicles, probably, if you look at it that way, is if you look now at the streets, you see most of the cars in a traffic with one person inside, and then what is even worse, you see 10% of cars driving and 90% of cars standing, and probably if you have a car, probably you are using it 5% of your time. And imagine that now every car will be used 100% of time, because for 5% when you need it, it will serve you, and then for the 95% that you don't need it, someone else will use
serving
it.
somebody else.
There will be much less traffic because there will be automatic way of scheduled traveling routes and so on. So we will have, this is a win-win.
So we're going to move away from ownership of vehicles.
Absolutely.
Completely.
Vehicles will be a service on your mobile phone.
Have you seen car manufacturers, for instance, changing design to cope with a future that's going to see more car sharing, carpooling, as they call it in the US?
Absolutely, everybody is thinking about this. I cannot share too much details, but generally, every company is expecting that. Some of the companies want to go straight for the so-called level 5 autonomy, so that the car can go from wherever to wherever. But some of them more realistically target the nearest future, like only going for the highways, for example, for the long routes. But generally, everybody is expecting that and is trying to prepare for this moment.
So when we look towards a future where autonomous vehicles are the norm as opposed to the exception, have you seen any projections as to what that's going to do to the number of vehicles that are actually on the roads nowadays?
That's what I already told. Yes, it will be so much smaller, the number, because
any percentage figures that are projected?
To be honest, I cannot be any precise. It's only my intuition, and I would say it's like 10%.
10%. 10% of the vehicles that currently exist would be on the road.
Yes,
after that.
yes. Probably more people will start to use this kind of transport. Maybe it will get cheaper, so that people that are now not able to afford their car, not even able to afford probably public transportation, they just have a mobile phone. Just train is too expensive, plane is too expensive. Now they will be able to maybe participate in that also. So maybe it will be even a bit more, but still traffic will be much lower. It will be much nicer times.
Definitely, and that's going to have a really good benefit on the environment moving forward as well.
Exactly.
Definitely, I mean that's going to happen as we move away from gas guzzling vehicles towards electric and hybrid as well. But then reducing the number of vehicles actually on the ground is going to have a massive implication for the benefit.
Yeah, and because it's automatic, it will be also able to find out such a route that to not get deplenish the battery. So there will be, if automation goes into that, we are saved. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
There are no more human errors either on the side of the traffic jam, which is still quite a lot. Machine will not make this kind of errors. This is something we are sure. Obviously, in the beginning, there will be some problems if there are both automatic vehicles on the road and humans. That might be a hard transition time.
And we can't get away from the fact that roads are designed in such a way that they are shared by vehicles, but also bicycles and also pedestrians as well. And so that's going to be one of the big challenges from a safety perspective.
Yes, but now, for example, if there is sun blinding you, you might miss a person, as a human, you might miss the person on a bicycle. But if the car is equipped both with camera, plus LiDARs, plus radars, plus whatever else, then it will probably have much better chance of knowing what's going on. Maybe it's even some night vision, a lot of other techniques that can be used. And obviously, almost everyone is aiming towards fusion of all the possible sensors to get the job done right. Then you have also below the map to improve the precision, the confidence of what your car sees. It can much better plan its route up to centimeter level to get proper maneuvers. So as a human, this is beyond the possibility, all of this stuff. So I'm sure we are going in the right direction.
I guess one of the other things that we don't talk about that much when it comes to autonomous vehicles is the difference between wear on those vehicles from having them driven through artificial intelligence, because different people drive in different ways, and there are good drivers and bad drivers. And if we can nail down a great way of driving, and we make sure the machine is doing that, then the wear and tear on the road and also on the vehicles is going to reduce as well. So that's going to be another positive impact going forward.
Absolutely, yes. We are in this nice position where, as designers, we can choose the training set on our own, as you said, and obviously it's still unknown. There's still a lot of options how driving will be performed. Is it the neural network that will be driving end to end? Rather not. Maybe there will be small components. First component to understand the road, second to detect moving objects, the third network to plan the best route, and the fourth network to maybe just choose out of all the options the best possible. So and maybe in the beginning there will be just these three networks, and the fourth will not be a network but just an algorithm, mathematical algorithm, handcrafted. It is not perfectly sure how the final solution will look like, but for sure we will use the best training set, and then the driving experience as a passenger will be much better.
So there's a heap of complexity that we still need to work out going forward. What's your prediction on maybe how many years do you think it's going to be before we see a majority of vehicles being on the roads as autonomous?
That's an interesting question, and to be honest, this is a very smooth transition that we are going to look for. In fact, it already started, because you can already buy a car that keeps the speed. That's obviously. You can already buy a car that keeps the speed dynamic on your own lane. The next step is to change your lane and go over the next car, and it will be very soon. On the highway, the next step will be just tell where to go, and it's very soon. It's almost there. There's already cars driving, test cars of the best companies are already doing this, using the map, by the way, which I do with my colleagues. But then the next step will be to go into the cities, and then make the global transportation. And this is probably, it's very hard to predict now, but it's still a couple of years, maybe 5, maybe 10. It's hard to say. But the highway automation is very close. I would say it's more or less 2 years, and I think we will have a lot of cars ready to. Maybe not a lot of people will be able to buy them in the beginning, but they will be available, I think.
Yeah. So, final question. Do you think that with the highways that we're going to move towards almost a two-tier approach, where maybe we'll have traditional roads that exist right now, and maybe roads that are built almost like toll roads that are purely reserved for autonomous vehicles as a first step, just as a trial?
I don't think so. I think there will be rather the same transportation network as it is, but maybe there will be like convenient rules that people will try to follow. That, for example, but because, okay, what I need to mention is probably the best target now that will give us the most positive effect as a society would be to make trucks go autonomously. This is probably something where we need to focus most, because as users, well, we can drive, we usually finish our destination in 8 hours, but when it comes to trucks, there is a lot of changes that needs to be taken. It costs a lot. You can save a lot of money as a society when you can turn these trucks into autonomous vehicles. And then, coming back to your question, probably the autonomous trucks will now be driving on the right lane, and everybody will get used to that they cannot go into this lane because they will be driving like back to front, and maybe, I don't know, half a meter. So because they will be first of all communicating with each other, so they will know if something happens, and they will get the speed all together. It will be like a train of vehicles.
Trains without rails.
Exactly, trains without rails. That's what might happen, and this is where we will, as a society, will gain most. And this is what is going to happen. And I think, in the beginning, typical passenger cars will need to adapt to that fact that probably the right lane is reserved for them. It will not be probably the regulation, but this is my intuition how it will look like in the first stages.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.